Settlers, Chapter 12, Section 4. High Tech and the Third World. This trend now accelerates. As early as 1970, the U.S. electrical equipment industry had 1/3 of its total workforce outside U.S. borders. Ford Motor Company, which already takes over 50% of its profits overseas, has announced plans to sharply increase foreign production. Already investing $1 billion each year in foreign plants, Ford's spokesman emphasized, quote, "We plan to spend at an even higher rate." Even Hewlett-Packard, the computer giant that is one of the largest California, quote, high-tech employers, is building its newest major plants in Mexico and the UK. Hewlett-Packard has said that its future production growth will be outside the US. Paradoxically, the uproar over the Atari Corporation's decision to close out U.S. production itself verifies this trend. While radicals denounce this move, quote, to shift manufacturing of its video games and home computers from the U.S. to Hong Kong and Taiwan, end quote, Atari production has always been in the Third World. Its game cartridges are made in Puerto Rico. Its Asian plants were established years ago, and its U.S. production employees primarily Chicano-Mexicano and Asian immigrant women. It was only a question for Atari of which Third World workers to lay off. Decadence is revealed anew in unexpected ways. Everyone has heard that, quote, high tech is the industrial future. These are the new industries based on sophisticated products that keep rapidly changing, keeping on the, quote, cutting edge of technology, rather than just stamping out standard products year after year. In other words, instead of steel bars and diesel engines, computer chips, or biogenetics or robotics. These, quote, high-tech industries today, by their very nature, employ one engineer for every 3.6 production workers in the U.S. And there is today a relative shortage of engineers in key specialties. The U.S. empire's answer has been to drain engineers from the rest of the world, in particular the Third World, India, Taiwan, Mexico, Palestine, etc. A recent study funded by the Mellon Foundation reported that, quote, many graduate engineering programs, even at some of the most prestigious institutions, draw 70% or more of their students from abroad. Several engineering deans, the report says, suggest that without foreign students, they would have had to close down their graduate program in the short run and their whole operation immediately. Since graduate students are essential labor in university laboratories, much research vital to the national interest would, quote, grind to a halt without foreign students, the report warns. End quote. It turns out that many of the engineering school faculty as well, at some universities close to a majority, are from the Third World. In 1982, for the first time, a majority of the U.S. doctorates awarded in engineering went to foreign students. In testimony before a House of Representatives Immigration Subcommittee, John Calhoun of the Intel Corporation, Advanced Electronics, said, quote, we in the industry have been forced to hire immigrants in order to grow, end quote. He said that just considering graduates of U.S. universities, 50% of the master's degrees engineers and 66% of the PhD engineers hired by Intel were foreign immigrants. The U.S. empire's absorption of third world scientists and engineers, the, quote, brain drain, is so significant that last year the UN General Assembly passed a resolution urging a halt to the, quote, reverse transfer of technology out of the third world. The US and other NATO powers voted against it. Even when it comes to high technology, it turns out that part of the US empire's superiority comes from looting the third world. Just as interesting is the question of why aren't there enough Euro-American engineers? Answer: engineering doesn't pay well enough for settlers. In 1981, a survey found an average engineering income, according to the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, of $36,867. This isn't good enough for them. Engineering requires years of study, taking difficult courses in college, and then constant re-education to keep up with new advances. The overwhelming majority of U.S. engineers leave the field, primarily for management and entrepreneurial careers. A 1970 survey of 878 MIT engineering graduates found that 726 had left engineering. For Euro-Americans, in other words, engineering is primarily a good foundation to become a business executive. While U.S. universities are producing 67,000 engineers per year, the American Electronics Association says that through 1985, there will be an annual shortfall of 20,000 engineers just in its sector. The shortfall only exists because as many as 50,000 U.S. engineers per year leave the profession. Technical education becomes only a step to swell the numbers of Euro-American businessmen, while the third world is drained of educated men and women to do essential parts of the actual technological work for the U.S. empire. Decadence manifests itself even in the most advanced aspects of the oppressor nation. Babylon with computers is still Babylon. End of section.